Well, hey, Jessica,
Hi.
how you doing?
I'm well. How about you?
Oh, I'm doing good. Tired.
Tired?
Yeah, I worked out pretty good yesterday here, and then I went over to the neighborhood that I stay in.
Hmm.
Give me a chance to see what all the guys have done to our house, and then I think I probably got me about a 3 mile walk in.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's showing Jennifer's picture up there, right?
It is. It is.
I think that's funny. People go, that's Dr. Lee. No, it's not. It's Joe Major. Did you not get my email yesterday?
I did. I actually just emailed you a little while ago when I saw it.
Uh,
I misunderstood when you sent it. I thought you were just saying, hey, I'm going to forward you the Zoom information, not realizing it was in the same email. So I just scrolled down. Oh, there it is.
Yeah.
Apologize about that.
No, you're fine. I messed that up. I had you thinking that I was sending it to you.
You did. You did. You sent it. Oh, and I signed on. I signed on before to make sure everything was working. So you may have me recorded like joking around, like bring the vodka over as a joke. So
This is my first time.
okay, so just don't post the whole thing.
Yeah, my first time being a host, and I had to get I had to join Zoom, but this is through Jennifer's setup. But I got my own now. I was like, how do you retrieve numbers and everything to send to folks so they can dial in or what have you? Because I didn't know how to do that stuff. So it's never too late to learn. I needed all this stuff anyway, because technology is where we're going. Where it's not where we're going, but we are there. Yeah,
exactly.
So
exactly.
I was talking to Jennifer, and she was saying that we may not have anyone.
Okay.
But if she said that's fine, we could just have conversation anyway. Talking about nutrition and what have you, which I'm fine with. Yeah. So.
Joe, why don't you put your video on so I can see you?
I don't have the video on?
No.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Hold on. Hello.
There you are.
I'm sorry.
It's okay. It's okay.
Just learned it, dog.
I hear it. I hear you. I do some volunteer work for an organization here in Charlotte, and they wanted me to be more using their Instagram account and post, and I don't like Instagram. Like, I don't like to learn it. And so I'm like, you guys are gonna have to find somebody else to do this, because that's like millennial stuff, and I don't want to be part of that.
Well, guess what? I'm the same way. And so Jennifer said, you're gonna have to sign up on the Instagram. Huh? Come on. No. I don't get into all this kind of stuff here. I'm an old country boy from South Carolina.
Yeah.
But I can't use that with Jennifer. Well, it's got to be done, Joseph. It's got to be done.
I have an account. I don't like using it.
Right. Well, you know what? I signed up on it, but I've never used it. I don't log into it.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, I don't know the password or nothing. So if I had to save my life by knowing that password, I'm a dead man. Oh God, this stuff being recorded.
Yeah, we are. We are.
Yeah.
Hello there.
Hey, Coach Major and Miss McCartan. How are you?
Good. I changed my name. I guess it's not showing up. It's Barrett. My husband is the strength coach over there. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you as well.
He's Sean Barrett, so you may have met him. And I'm Jessica Barrett. We got married last May, and I'm still trying to figure out how to change my name on everything.
Oh, awesome. Well, congratulations. And I wanted to say, I'm going to probably pop off at some point. This is a day I need to be about 3 people, because we've got multiple things happening between the 12 noon and 1 o'clock hour. But I did want to come on and thank you and Coach Major for pulling this together, because we're talking about nutrition, correct? Yeah. Which I think is important, certainly during Women's History Month. And I'm glad we are recording so we can load to the YouTube page afterwards. So thank you.
Yes. So Dr. Hayward, how are you doing?
I'm Doing okay. We've got a couple of reports due, and there's an admin meeting at 1 that will probably run very long because we haven't met in a long time, but there's a lot to discuss as we try to bring students back as early as June. So more to come, we shall see.
Yeah.
We're talking summer school.
Summer school, yep, and some summer experiences for the freshmen who, lost this year, if you will, on top of orientation, and then like all these summer programs that we usually host here on campus. And if we're going to be able to physically do it because of COVID and testing and just all of that. So I suspect that our meeting will run very long today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, if there's an opportunity to bring back summer school, it'll kind of give us an idea where we're at in terms of dealing with the pandemic. And when you're talking about bringing the kids back in the fall, so
yeah, it will give us a dry run, if you will.
Yeah,
yes,
sure.
yeah.
Yep.
That would be good.
Well, I guess we can get started here.
Okay.
I'm excited about chatting with a registered dietitian, Jessica Barrett. Did I pronounce the last name correct?
You did.
Yes. And just have a few questions and everything. But before we get started, Ms. Barrett, I just want you to tell us some things about yourself, which I'm so excited. Yes.
Well, a registered dietitian, it's my second career. I was in the mortgage industry for a long time until about 2008, when the mortgage industry crashed. And then I decided to focus on an area that there was a passion behind. I liked what I did in mortgages, but there was no real passion behind it. It was just going to a job every day and coming home. So I decided to go into the focus of nutrition and wanted to have the proper credentials behind me. And so went back to school, did a year-long internship. I had to travel to Florence for half of it. It was crazy, intense times. Yeah. And then I came back. I'm a mother of 2. My oldest is 26 and my other daughter is only 3. So there's a huge age difference in my children. But it's been fun. It's like raising one at a time, really, because the 26-year-old is out of the house and the 3-year-old is running the house. So that's just a little bit about me. I do one-on-one counseling. I do group counseling. I also work with restaurants in the area for nutrition information as far as like their nutrition facts, as well as helping them tweak some of their recipes because I'm also a chef. And so I'm trying to find ways to maybe reduce sodium or fat content without taking away flavor, because to me, it's all about flavor. If something doesn't taste good, it's really hard to really make a change that way. So that's a little about me.
We spoke earlier. You did mention something about didn't you help out the Johnson C. Smith University football team here?
I did. I was working prior to the pandemic. I had been working with the football team to get more plant-based foods incorporated into their diet for not only performance but recovery. And so I guess so we're in 2021. So that was 2019, and I did some pregame meals with them that were strictly plant-based, 100% plant. And they did very well. In fact, like every time I did their pregame meal, they won those games. So it was really nice that, I mean, the science doesn't cover that. It could have just been what it is, but it was at least nice to see that not only did they perform well, but they felt good as far as recovery afterwards. And they weren't losing energy halfway through. That was something, because I always survey people when I'm doing something with them and make sure that I've got my ducks in a row and understand what their needs are. And one of the things that kept coming back to the football players were coming back to me with was usually halfway through, I'm done. And it takes so much energy to finish. And that every time that they had the pregame meal that was plant-based, that was more focused on carbohydrate energy rather than, adding a lot of fats and proteins prior to a game. They really felt it all the way through. And we even had several people messaging afterwards at like 9:00 at night saying, "Hey coach, I'm so full. Like, what did you put in my diet?" So they really liked it. It was about 98% accepted. I think it was like 2 people that didn't really have an interest in it. Which is nice that majority of them did like that, and they want to see these types of options for them, and so that they can fuel their game properly and also recover properly.
Now, and that's definitely one of my questions. What are plant-based foods?
Yeah, so good question. Right now it's a loose term, and depending on what industry you're talking to, they have their own definition. The Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics, they define it not as, so there's 100% plant-based, which would be no animal products at all. But when we're talking plant-based, it just means more plant-heavy. And so not all your meals are focused around a meat or dairy or something like that. So it's really focusing on putting more plants into your diet to not only help fuel you, but to increase your health, right? Because a lot of Americans, we don't get enough fiber that we need. And so these are great ways to get more fiber. It also helps reduce cardiovascular issues as well as diabetes. These are our top reasons, chronic illnesses in the US. And so focusing on more of a plant heavy, that's what they're really meaning when they're saying plant-based. But you can get into communities where you say plant-based and they automatically think it's the void of animal products. But the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics states that it's not the void of an animal product. It just means more plants on your plate.
Okay. What are clean foods?
Yeah, that's a term. Dietitians don't like to use that term, only because there can be some negative stuff behind it, especially when it comes to like disordered eating, and then that they have to eat clean. The term we like to use is whole foods, and that's really what we're looking at, like with clean. But some people refer to clean eating like, when they're buying chicken and it doesn't have any hormones, that kind of stuff, and they're referring to that. But in general, when we're talking clean foods, we're really talking about whole foods.
Okay. Because see, I'm one of those guys, in terms of meat, I don't eat the red meat, I don't eat the pork, and all that came from, having my annual physical and everything. And when you talk about high blood pressure and high cholesterol, all that kind of stuff, and certain things, you cut out your diet, what have you. And I would say probably I haven't ate pork or beef, must be 15, 16 years.
Yeah.
Now, chicken, I love chicken. And I'll be honest, I used to eat a lot of the shrimp and everything, and they said that shellfish is not good for you in terms of your cholesterol, what have you. But, I've cut that out of my diet as well. But, chicken, and I find myself buying organic chicken. So let's talk about the organic stuff.
Organic, yeah. Well, in general, and this is from the dietetics standpoint, there are probably many industries that would disagree with this because the science is a bit mixed on organic in general. And there are only a few foods that dietitians look at and say, hey, when this is grown in the ground and there's like these types of pesticides, they can seep in and now they're going into your body. And so they haven't really focused on like the organic chicken, but it's the same concept, right? So that they're not using certain pesticides. It doesn't mean that they're not using a pesticide. It's just, I don't even know what the right term would be. Like bad pesticides and then pesticides that are more natural. And so organic can be a natural pesticide that's not going to be harmful to your body. And let me scroll to find here are the recommendations for what to keep organic. It's a small list. It's called the Dirty Dozen: strawberries, kale, spinach, nectarines, apples, grains. I'm going to take grains out of that. Sorry, peaches, cherries, pears, tomatoes, and potatoes. But at the same time, I'm one of those people that, even if those foods are not organic, you're still going to get such a benefit from eating any one of those foods because they're filled with nutrients, phytochemicals, fiber. They're usually low in fat. They're usually a decent amount of carbohydrates, which are going to fuel your body. So it's one of those things that while there is a push of like, some dietitians will say, avoid these dirty dozen, make sure they're organic. The body is designed to be able to process toxins. I mean, we have some great, our liver, our kidneys, these are designed to be able to process toxins. Now, if you're constantly putting toxins in your body and you're not fueling your body, then of course your body's going to have a harder time to get rid of them and eliminate them. But if you're focusing on a more healthy diet that you're getting the right recommendations of fruits and vegetables, it's one of those things that your body has a good chance to be able to process those toxins the way it needs to.
Okay. So, yeah, I know you on that. You mentioned a lot of fruits and everything. And I was always told that you want at least 5 to 6 servings of fruits and vegetables.
Mm-hmm.
And when I try to eat a meal, I try to focus on that.
Yeah.
So can you eat too much fruits and vegetables?
Good question. Fruits get a bad rap because of that sugar content. But what's great about fruit is that the sugar that's in it has a synergistic relationship with other nutrients in it. So take fiber. I know I keep mentioning fiber. It's a very important part of our diet that we don't actually absorb into our system. It just stays in our digestive tract and helps slows things down. So when you're eating fruit, that fiber content that's in that fruit is going to help slow it down through the digestive system. So you're absorbing the right amount of sugar or glucose and you're eliminating what you don't need, right? And so there are, I don't know if you've ever heard of them, they're called Fruitarians. It's kind of like a vegetarian, I know. But I've never seen an overweight fruitarian. And they eat a lot of fruit, more fruit than I could even imagine to eat, because that's really all they eat is fruit. And so if fruit was by itself, I don't think it's something that really causes weight gain. What causes weight gain is calories, right? Too many calories, not so much too much fruit. And same with vegetables. The potato gets such a bad rep. Even though it's not a non-starchy vegetable, it's still a vegetable, it gets a bad rep, like it's a bad thing. And it's like, well, what are we putting on that potato that could be causing us to increase the calories? Because potatoes are actually low in calories, high in potassium. If you keep the skin on it, you still got the fiber intact with it. And so there's so many benefits to it. So the short answer, even though I just was long-winded on that, was probably not. If you had an ailment, an issue with certain things, like if you had a chronic disease that requires you to reduce the amount of potassium, like kidney disease, then it would be a different answer. But if we're talking general public, the USDA and dietitians recommend 3 to 5 servings of vegetables, non-starchy vegetables, and 2 to 3 servings of fruit. And so I have seen, if you went above that 3 pieces of fruit a day, that's not going to really what's going to push you over as far as with weight loss or weight gain, I should say.
Okay. Oh, we were talking about the calories and everything. So whenever I teach like a class or what have you, aerobics, what have you, and I always tell participants, keep your body moving, keep your feet moving. You want to burn as much calories as possible. We want more calories going out through fitness activities versus calories going in by what you eat.
Yeah.
So with that being said, what are empty calories?
Calories in, calories out, depending on what you're trying to do. So if you're trying to lose weight, you got to make sure that you're not putting more calories in your body than you're expending for the day. And that could be a gradual weight gain or a rapid weight gain, depending on that. And you know, if you're working out every day and all of a sudden you just like on a weekend just binged on some food and you put in more calories than normal, your body usually responds in a way that's different. Like you don't just immediately get on the scale the next day and like, man, I just gained 5 pounds from that. Because the body is better equipped to metabolize that better than if you weren't exercising at all. Did that answer your question?
Oh yeah, and another thing too is, how many calories should we consume each day through eating?
Yeah, so if you look at you and you look at me, we're different body sizes. We have different needs and requirements. And so I think the easiest way to gauge that, because there are a lot of calculations and everybody uses their own different calculations, is if you get an understanding of how, on average, how many calories you're eating per day. Let's say you take, you recorded your food for 2 days on a weekday and 1 day on a weekend. I like to do 1 day on a weekend because sometimes we tend to eat differently on the weekend. And then take the average calories of that. You want to make, if you're trying to lose weight, you want to make sure that the whatever calorie you average that you're taking in less than. And so it takes 3,500 calories to lose a pound. And so you can break that up any which way you want. You know, you can divide it into 7 because there's 7 days in a week. You can calculate your exercise into that as a part of that. So maybe 250 calories a day reduction in your food, 250 calories increase in your workout to burn 250 calories. And then over the course of a week, you can lose a pound. But saying that, it's one of those things, if you try to lose weight too quickly, it could bite you in the butt later on, and cause you to go down this spiral of yo-yo dieting. Like, I'm good, and then I'm on this for 6 weeks and I'm good to go. And then all of a sudden something happens in life and, you know, now you're not focused on the way you were eating and you're focusing your attention on something else. So you might start mindlessly eating. So doing it in more of a small amount and then increasing it from there, like reducing from there, is a lot more beneficial to you to meet your goals.
Okay. It seemed like when I was much younger, it was easy for me to drop the pounds, to lose weight.
Yeah.
Now, as I get older and I'm trying my best to eat healthy and everything and exercise, it seems like it's so hard to lose weight.
Yeah.
Why is that?
That's a loaded question.
Uh-oh.
Well, it's not just like a one answer, right? So it's like, if you think about, if you observe children and see how active they are naturally, like my 3-year-old, she'll sit there and eat a banana and like do flips and go on the couch and like eat in between each bite. She's constantly burning this energy, and her metabolism is a lot higher. So our metabolism is a lot higher as children because it's just the way it's designed, like that children need that as they grow. And so my daughter and I could literally eat the same amount of calories, even though she's 3, and she's going to burn through that a lot quicker than the way I'm going to burn through it. So as we age, yes, our body does slow down a bit. Our metabolism starts to slow down a bit, but our body, the way we process lipids changes as well. So that, like, I'm exercising, I'm eating right, but it's so hard to do what I remember back when I was 18, like I get a little puffy gut and then it's like, I'll just do a few sit-ups every day and bam, it's gone. You know, at age 44, and that doesn't work that way. So it makes it harder, but we also live differently. A lot of times our lives become a more sedentary than when we were younger. And so we're sitting a lot, we're not moving a lot. And then we're only reserving our exercise time during exercise time. So, but if we were to act like a 3-year-old, we would be burning more calories on a regular basis. Our metabolism would still be slower than a 3-year-old, but we would still have a higher metabolism than what we do now.
Okay. So
play with kids.
I know, right? Which I don't have any. You know, I'm part of the
You wanna
village.
borrow mine?
So what is meant by free range? Like I can go in the grocery store and something I don't even eat anymore. I'll eat the egg whites out of the cart, right? But you see free range eggs. What is meant by free range?
Unfortunately, it's a misconception to the public. Because if you think about when you hear the term free range, it means it's like they're roaming and they're free to go wherever they want, unlimited amount of time. But really what it means is that they have access. They don't have access to necessarily have access to outdoors. They could be crowded in a room full of lots and lots of other chickens or hens, depending on what you're for, if you're laying an egg or not. And they could be on top of each other, and that could be considered free range. What does it mean to you and I? Nothing. If you're concerned about the way the animals, whether it's egg consumption or chicken consumption is, the best thing to do is find a local farmer that is doing this kind of stuff and really observing, because a lot of your local farmers are transparent. And so you can see what's going on, and so that you can see if these animals are sitting in a cage or if they're truly free to roam. And that's the same with the other one, the free range and cage-free egg. Yeah. So I've had a piece of paper, but it's missing on this side. So this is a letter-sized paper, a very poor drawing of my digestive system because I'm not good at drawing at all. Okay. But this is basically the size of what a chicken cage is in. So when they're in a cage, that's how small it is. And so taking away that cage and making it more of a free range, it can be that they are free to roam, or it can be that they're just clustered in a room with some light coming from outside. Oh. There's a lot of misconceptions, and I don't want to call them misconception, deception out there in marketing. So these are marketing tools, just like when you see antibiotic-free, I can't remember the term for it, antibiotic-free chicken, or it doesn't mean that these animals have never had antibiotics. It means, which is by law, what they have to do is they have to make sure that there are no antibiotics in their system by the time they're slaughtered. And we use antibiotics when we're sick. So it's okay that these animals are using it as well, but they're making sure that they're getting it through their system, and before they are slaughtered, there's no antibiotics in their system. But when we see that on a label, we're just thinking, oh, they've just never had an antibiotic in their life.
Okay. Man, God, I'm learning some things here. You know, the free range, the cage free. I didn't even think of it that way. You know, now we want to use the chickens. You know, I just thought when it's a free range, they just roam all over the place. Like, that's it. But I want to talk about men and women as they age. What are some areas where they tend to gain weight? Like, I can use the pandemic, you know. I think one thing helped me. I got out and I did a lot of walking, but a lot of people didn't exercise because I would say they was scared to go outside because they didn't want to come in contact with folks, you know. So some people picking up weight around their midsection and everything, their legs. What are those areas of the body where men and women will actually gain weight?
That's one it really is different for everybody. I mean, if we're talking like average, like the men commonly gain weight in their midsection differently than women do. Not to say that we don't gain it there, but we have a tendency to keep it more in our hips and kind of go into that hip area. But that's not to say every woman is the same, and that's not to say every man is the same. This is just a general information. If you've ever gained weight, I know for myself, I do gain weight in that mid section and not so much in that hip area. So it doesn't necessarily fit all women or all men.
Okay. Okay. Now, this one is I always call it kind of dangerous because people do so much to try to lose the weight to the point where they're starving themselves and it's unhealthy.
Yeah.
Why is that? I mean, are they so determined to lose the weight? Or I know sometimes it can be mental. You know, what do you think about that?
Well, there are a lot of different programs on the market. Not all of them are backed by or supported by science. Some are. In general, I think it's harder for us to see or to focus on our goals like down the road because we want that immediate satisfaction. I want to see that number on the scale go down. I want to see my clothes fit differently. And so a lot of times people are trying to do something quicker so that they have that immediate gratification rather than saying, you know what, it took me X amount of time to put this on. Maybe I should put X amount of time to take this off. So my mind has a chance to catch up with what I'm trying to do for my body, and that I don't put myself in this yo-yo dieting, going up, going down, going up. Because yo-yo dieting is worse than being overweight because you're going up, you're going down, you're shocking your body all this time. It could cause more issues like cardiovascular issues than if you were not to diet at all. I don't like the term like dieting. I use the term because I mean, it's even in my name as a dietitian. But the thing is that I'm more about focusing on getting our minds prepped and ready to go for the adventure we're about to go on, not restriction. Because if we look at things as restriction, they might be temporary solutions rather than a long-term goal of just being healthier. I want to be healthier, and part of that health goal is to lose weight or gain weight depending on what your needs are, and really just focusing on making smaller changes and setting smaller goals and being okay with today with those changes, knowing that 6 weeks from now, that little change you made, you're more likely to hold on to because your brain is catching up with what you're doing. Example, let's say someone's just trying to reduce their calories. An easy way to do something like that, if they're a milk drinker, milk is probably about 100 to 120 calories per 1 cup. If they were just to switch over to almond milk, they can get that 1 cup down to 30 calories. If they can find an almond milk that tastes very similar, like an unsweetened almond milk, something like that, and they just replace that, right off the bat, you're already reducing your calories from like 70 to 90 calories less per drink that you have. So if you were only drinking 1 cup a day, you would be reducing your calories by 70 to 90 calories without your brain going, well, I don't like this. I'm still hungry. It's in your mind. Although you've made a change, if the taste different if there's not much of a taste difference, it's easier. It becomes easier. And so you set that, and all of a sudden you're like 6 weeks from now, you're drinking almond milk. You're not focusing on like losing so much on the scale. And then you change something else. And you find another change. Now, this is just one way to go about it. And it's a slow way to go about it. You don't have to be this slow. But what I've noticed is when people make smaller changes and stick with that, and they're not compromising taste, flavors, or any traditions that go along with eating, they are more likely to keep that weight off in the long run.
So let me ask you a question. Now, with people trying to lose weight and everything, how often should they get on that scale?
Yeah, good question. I wouldn't do it more than once a week. I don't even think you need to do it on a weekly basis, because if you're focusing more on the scale rather than the health benefits of what you're doing, you're directing your attention to an area that's not necessarily health driven. You know, you can go on a McDonald's diet and reduce your calories. That is not a health driven plan, right? That's just empty calories, which I know you have questions about empty calories. But if you were to go in the same direction of just amping up, increasing those plant-based foods and reducing calories slowly, you're also going to lose weight on top of having those health benefits that go along with it. Lower cholesterol, less likely to have heart disease or diabetes or even cancer.
Okay. How would a person know, or how can you tell when a person don't have enough vitamin D?
Could you repeat that question?
Yeah, in terms of the vitamin D, I know we get vitamin D through milk and everything, but what is it? How do you know when a person is not getting enough vitamin D?
That is a very good question. And I really wish it was just a standard for all of us on our annual physicals. But a lot of times we have to ask for that test. Not always.
Right.
And I always encourage people every year when you get your checkup, check your vitamin D, because a large portion of the people in the US are low in vitamin D. And especially anybody up north, they're not getting it as much from the sun exposure as us down here in the South. And then same with the body types, our skin tones absorb vitamin D differently. So it is important to get it checked on an annual basis to make sure that you're staying on top of it, because vitamin D has a huge role in the body as hormones and thyroid health. But in addition, it also plays a role with calcium absorption. And so if you're not getting enough vitamin D, it doesn't matter how much calcium you're getting, your body's not going to be able to absorb it, because those go together. They bind and they go together. And so it is important to make sure our vitamin D levels are up. And if your vitamin D levels are low when you have your test taken, you know, a supplement will do the trick, and the amount would be based on what your physician states.
Okay. So, you know, they always try to say stay away from the fried foods and everything. And, you know, when we frying food, we're using granola oil, we're using vegetable oil and everything. Lately here, I've been frying fish. Well, I haven't ate fish in a while now, but when I did, you know, maybe about 2.5 months ago, I was using virgin oil.
Oh, extra virgin olive oil, yes.
So, and the reason why I'm doing that, because they say that the olive oil is better for you, especially when you talk about granola and vegetable oil, what have you. What are your take on that? You know, should I continue to do that?
Yeah, good question. Plant oils in general are better options than, say, lard or butters. And the reason why is because lard and butter are higher in saturated fat. The exception to the plant oils that are to the rule would be coconut oil, because it is the highest in saturated fat, even above lard. So it's good for us, don't get me wrong, but in moderation. Just like it's okay to use butter and that kind of stuff in moderation. When it's our go-to oil, it becomes an issue because we're increasing our saturated fats. Now, olive oil is a great oil because not only is it low in saturated fat, but it's, and I might get this wrong because there's two of them. So there's canola oil and that's extra virgin olive oil that are both very low in saturated fats. But one of them's high in monounsaturated fats and the other is high in polyunsaturated fats, which are very important fats for lipids for our body. And so being able to go back and forth is good, because extra virgin olive oil doesn't do well in high heat situations. It'll start to its smoking point is lower, so it'll start smoking and cause a toxin in it. So if you were to use it for an extended period of time when you're cooking something like fish, you may want to switch over to like a canola oil for that, because
Okay.
it also, I believe it's the canola oil that's high in the monounsaturated fats, and the olive oil is higher in the polyunsaturated fats. But they are good for us. The Mediterranean diet is focused on those types of oils, which they know that when you focus more on those types of the mono and polyunsaturated fats and lower saturated fats, it's more heart healthy.
Okay. So, I've talked about the red meat, the pork, the chicken and everything. I mean, people are saying fish is good for you. Now, I do eat a lot of salmon.
Mm-hmm.
If I can find a nice little sale where I can, maybe broil, or bake, piece of trout or something like that.
Yeah.
I mean, how much fish should we eat?
That's more dependent on the individual. I would say a person that eats fish or chicken, that kind of stuff, they should at least be getting once a week. I would recommend more, maybe
Okay.
2 times a week. And it's because, especially salmon. So you mentioned salmon. It's high in omega-3s. And that is, omega-3s are great for our brain. And we just don't have many sources to get omega-3s. One of the ones would be salmon. I don't remember the other fish on the list, but there are a couple other fish that you would get the omega-3 from. You can also get it from walnuts and chia seeds and hemp seeds. So there are some options to do that. And so how much should you have in your diet? It really is to make sure that you have those omega-3s in your diet, to make sure you're getting multiple sources. So whether it be a fish in the form of fish or in the form of like a nut or a seed, those are both good options. The difference between the two is that, well, one, they're both high in fat, but it's the types of fat that they're high in. So, you would definitely want to mix it up so that you're getting some of it from either nuts and seeds and fish.
Okay. Wow. I have really, really enjoyed the conversation with you today. It's been great. And I'm hoping that, we had some folks to log on to the Zoom and hear us talk about, nutrition and everything and what's good for you in terms of food. I hope they have, got something from the conversation today. Yeah. Is there anything else that you want to?
Yeah, well, it's Women's Health Month, right? And so
it's all about the women's.
It is all about us, right?
That's right. Like the Lifetime Movie Network, for women, about women.
So we're in general, when we're talking about college age students generally. I mean, I went back to school late, so I don't count for this. The traditional student, they're young adults. And so female young adults from teenage years all the way up to like 25 really should focus on iron and calcium. Not by themselves, but these are things that, especially with calcium, bone health really matters for when we are teenagers and young adults, because that's when our bodies really absorb this kind of stuff. As we age, our bodies don't respond the same way to calcium and iron as it does when we were kids. I mentioned iron, especially for women, because they find that we can be lower in iron, especially at those younger years, because they're usually athletic, they're getting a menstrual cycle. These things contribute to iron loss. And so to make sure that they're getting enough iron and calcium, the best thing to go about it is with the calcium, you want to make sure you're getting enough vitamin D. And with the iron, you also you want to make sure you're pairing it with vitamin C foods. So if you're not getting it through beef or chicken, but you want to get it through plants, you want to pair these foods. And an example would be spinach paired with something with vitamin C, like lemon juice. So if you had a salad dressing with some sort of citrus in it, you're going to be able to do it that way. Let's say you don't like citrus. That's okay. Red peppers or bell peppers, all colors, are high in vitamin C. So if you had a salad with with peppers, that's also going to do the trick. So there are multiple ways to be able to pair up your iron-rich foods with your vitamin C-rich foods. And iron is one of those things for young female adults that they want to make sure that they're getting enough of, because they could become iron deficient and cause more problems. In addition, like I was saying with the calcium, is to make sure they're getting enough calcium for not only for today, but for when they're 85 years old and there's some more bone loss, their bones will be stronger.
Great. Wow. I tell you, and I'm talking about it seems like it's so much you have to do to become a registered dietitian. I just don't know if I can do it. You're the right person for the job.
It was tough. I had no idea beforehand what it takes to get into it, and they're making it even harder now. So before you can even get into an internship, starting 2024, before you can even get your internship, you have to complete a master's degree. So it's no longer just a bachelor's degree, you have to get a master's. And for most jobs, they require a master's degree. So they're making it tougher and tougher. And that's because there's a lot of avenues out there that are like health coaches or sometimes personal trainers that are giving out advice beyond general advice. So having us equipped with being able to be in a clinical situation and do prescribing tube feeds when someone can't eat and they have to be hooked up to tube feeding, that is a dietitian's job, as well as me speaking to you like this and being able to answer these types of questions that is science driven rather than just like testimonial driven.
Right. Okay. Wow, this has been great.
Well, Joe, thank you very much for having me.
Yes, ma'am. I'm glad you had the time to hang out with me today. Now, if we had some young ladies that wanted to communicate with you, what's the best way of them contacting you? Can they contact you through email?
Yeah, absolutely. You are more than welcome to post my email address. I'll say it here. It's JAMRD, I believe, 14. Let me double check it. It was JAMRD14@gmail.com. That is my direct email. If they have any questions, they can call me. And we can go from there. You know, it's like, I love working with the student athletes at John C. Smith. I love meeting new people over there. So I'd be more than happy to help them. And we thank you for the time you have spent here at John C. Smith, helping our student athletes. It's truly a blessing to have you part of the Golden Bull team. That's right. You're one of the coaches, you know, so it's a pleasure to have you here. Just want to let everybody know that I'm chatting with Miss Jessica Barrett, registered dietitian, and it's been great hanging out with her. Okay, and we just thank her for all the vital information that she has given us today. And again, if you have any questions for her, you can contact her via a email. Now I'm gonna let her give her email address back to you once more before we sign off. It's JAMRD14@gmail.com. It stands for Jessica Ann McCartan, which is my maiden name, 14@gmail.com, RD14@gmail.com. Sorry, I butchered that. Well, Ms. Barrett, we want to thank you. Hope everybody have a blessed day today. And if you take care of your health, it'll take care of you. Absolutely. Joe, you have a great one. You do the same. Thanks. Nice.